What's that guy in a Party City lab coat doing there? It's the year of the octopus, huh? Interesting. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Cottrell. Welcome to Nintendo Nightly, a daily bite-sized podcast / YouTube show, just talking about what's new in the Nintendo-verse, the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, so on and so forth. You get the point. We're here today to talk about Splatoon 2, specifically the ongoing support and DLC that is going on for the game. So we just got an announcement yesterday, a very strange announcement, might I add, with the whole subway thing. I mean, Splatoon gets so many things right. Growing up in the city, they get the subway right. It's a dirty and cold, empty place a lot of the time. And I really like that whole, build up the underwater music and all of that cool stuff in the trailer. It's a really cool trailer. Is it me, or is our new protagonist, does she have, weirdly shaped hips? And also, what was this about? And what was this about? I mean, I have so many questions, but I guess that's the carrot tied to a string, tied to a stick, that Nintendo is riding me and having me chase. And for the first time in a really long time, I'm legitimately excited about Splatoon 2. I think that they've taken a really interesting approach to how to do DLC and how to support your game long term, and I want to talk about that. The news is that there is paid DLC for Splatoon 2 for the first time, and I think for the entire franchise, the first paid DLC. Everything has been free support, and even though the base game was never huge to begin with, it's been nice to see them add different weapons, different stages, all sorts of stuff just to keep the game alive. And while I disagree with about 90% of their online policies when it comes to Splatoon, I really like this one. So the new DLC is a $20 extra story mode that you can have where you explore some of the beloved characters of Splatoon, and it'll come with all the stylings that you're used to, that weird underwater Neo-Tokyo dystopian paint squid-filled future that I've grown to really appreciate. I think it's a really creative game when you talk about just artistic expression, and I can't wait to dive into that. But the problem with DLC, typically, in these online games that, of course, they need to keep bringing in some sort of funds to keep the servers up and running, and as Nintendo gets more into providing a more stable online experience, they're realizing that's why the paid service is coming out. But most of the time, it also needs to happen on a game-by-game basis. To keep those servers running, in the early days, we used to pay a subscription fee, and that's how we played World of Warcraft. We would buy the game for $40. We would pay $15 a month for the right to access the servers, and then we would buy the $40 expansion. So, it's an expensive game. And traditionally, those sorts of server-heavy games have been. And when those types of games started making their way to console, they employed a lot of the same tactics. If you look at a game like Destiny 2, they come out with expansion packs that will sort of split the multiplayer base every time that they come out with a new one. And that's actually not happening here. They're keeping the multiplayer sort of separate from the DLC that they're charging. So while there is an expansion pack of sorts, it's not going to split the player base like you would expect, because they're not creating this divide between people who have paid the extra toll and people who haven't, like most games do. So multiplayer will stay largely the same. They're adding a bunch of new outfits for the spring. They're adding some new stages. All of that stuff will continue going whether you buy the DLC or not. But if you buy the DLC, you get some added perks that go into multiplayer but don't affect the gameplay experience. This is the new Octo costumes that you can have. You can design your Squid Kid to look like one of the octopus people and play inside of matches with there. So I imagine a lot of people who want to do that, especially early on, to kind of show off and see their new character. That's a big part of the Splatoon experience. However, the core of the game, being able to connect with other people, isn't being affected. And so many games struggle with this. They either offer DLC that doesn't add any value or DLC that splits the player base. And this does a great job of doing both, of providing something of value without making someone feel really terrible about not buying it. I mean, I don't feel pressured to buy it like I would in a game like World of Warcraft or Destiny 2. And I realize that, these games are going for different things, and Splatoon compared to World of Warcraft, of course, is a little bit of a smaller scope of accomplishment. But regardless, it's a really cool business practice, so I want to just call that out. In a world where even Nintendo, they're not innocent of this, are experimenting with loot boxes, psychological manipulation, endless, bottomless prices, you gotta give props where props are due, and props are due here. And while I realize that they have to come up with interesting online experiences like this, like the Balloon World for Mario Odyssey, like a robust multiplayer for the upcoming Smash and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so on and so forth, to pimp their new online service, they could also charge an arm and a leg for it. I kind of like poking. So yeah, like I said, I'm excited for Splatoon for the first time in a really long time, and I'm actually going to participate in tomorrow's Splatfest, or tonight, I guess. It's going to be going up around the same time that this episode does, and I believe it is the chicken versus the egg, which came first, which is oddly religious and philosophical for a Splatfest. I usually like the more inconsequential ones, like, is ketchup or mustard better? Or is the next Smash game a port or an entirely new game? The fun ones. But as always, I will examine the memes that are presented and probably join the one with the funniest memes or the most interesting color to splat the other team with. Mayonnaise was an interesting one, boy, I tell you what. So anyway, Nintendo Nightly, posting Monday through Friday, typically around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, unless I'm struggling that day. And if I am, send your boy some love. Leave a like or something. If I get 5,000 likes on this video, I will eat my microphone. I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend. Participate in the Splatfest. Hopefully I'll see you online. I haven't played the game in like 6 months, so I'm probably going to get creamed. And that's about it. Yep, that's what I got for you.